They're classy too, man. I can wear this on a date.
People who are most successful are the ones who don't just give up.
Hey, how good are these to-go boxes?
Our to-go boxes, they're not good. They're f***ing amazing. How did we get started here at Albemarle Paper? Well, late 2008, my cousin John and I started this paper company, and we got all sorts of different products.
Hey, Nick, come on, man. Let's get to work.
You got cleaning products, too? You got a party this weekend? We got your back. Anything you need here at APS. Plates, napkins, silverware, table covers. We got everything covered, right, boys? What other items do we carry? Paper towels? I got it. Toilet paper? I got it. Gloves? We got you. Pizza boxes? You're probably wondering, where are we? Where's Albemarle Paper? Don't you worry about that. We got you. I'll bring the product to your front door. See you guys.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the MLS Corner, the best corner of all of MLS. Charlotte FC, the CLT.
The tried and true.
What a show we have for you guys tonight. Good God, I thought we were just going to talk a little bit New York, a little bit DC, right? But with Carol's report that came out today, dude, we have a show. Before we get started, though, we have to give a shout out to our boy CLTFC Lucha, who's been hyping up the stream for the last hour. We weren't even live yet. My boy, I appreciate you, my guy. Sangre Negra y Azul. Awesome. So, all right. I mean, let's get into it then, right?
Let's go.
Lee, how are you tonight?
I'm good, man. Good. Trying to keep up with all the information that's coming out, man. It's a lot.
And my man Tyler, how are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm coming in here feeling good. The team's looking good. The blog's looking good. So I'm excited for this week.
Everything is looking good. You know what? Except Charlotte FC. Good God.
True. Yes. True.
Every day. Every day is something new with this club.
Hey, man, I tell you what, though, man, they do one-up themselves each time, bro. You know? So all goes back to the original comment. We're screwed.
Listen, bro, the PSL curse, bro.
It is. Seriously starting to think that's a curse, man.
Somebody said that to me a long time ago. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
man. And I'm like, dog, like, you know what? It actually might be a thing.
It is. Like
So
Corey
let's
says in
get
the
going,
comments, man, it's Christmas every day.
It is definitely Christmas every day. That's funny. Right? All right, let's get started then, right? Earlier today, our friend from the Ledger, Carol, shot out a report saying that Andre Shinyashiki is linked with a sexual assault case. So here's a little bit of a brief timeline on what happened and what she reported, right? So it said that this happened during Charlotte FC's season opener versus New England Revolution. It happened that night. So between the hours of 2:15 and 4:30 a.m. at Uptown 550 Apartments, the alleged incident occurred, right? A week later, a 23-year-old white female reported that she was, I'm not going to say it because I think YouTube kind of bans you for saying these words or whatever, right? But you guys see it. You know what's going on, an SA case, right? And as of today, the case remains open, but it is inactive, meaning detectives are not actively investigating new information, right? So that's very, very key. Detectives right now are not actively investigating new information. So obviously she blew this up, right? The internet went crazy. I think this was a great choice of wording by Carol as well on how she wrote this article, because this is a very, very sensitive topic, right? For both parties, right? And then what I want to say, maybe not even an hour later, Andre Shinyashiki via Twitter came out with these comments and said, "I'd like to address the story that came out today. I fully cooperated with Charlotte police and MLS in their separate investigations related to the incident and no charges have been filed against me. I've also been cleared by MLS to play, which is very key. I have no further comment. Andre Shinyashiki today via Twitter. I'll start off with you, Lee. Give me your thoughts on tonight, on what you're seeing. And I want to hear from everybody in the comment section as well. What do you guys make of this?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much to say, right? I mean, just going off of some of the comments that I've been just reading on the interwebs, right? I mean, a lot of people have come out and said if the club is trying to get rid of him and not talk about it, the real Salt Lake, that's a real shitty move. That's shady, yada yada yada. But I mean, Andre himself right there just says there's no charges pressed against him and he's been cleared to play. So if that's the case, I mean, is the club being shady? I mean, they can only go with what they've been told, right? No fouls have been charged, and the MLS says you're good to go, and the contract is with MLS. So,
yeah, I think that's a very important thing to touch on, right? I mean, at the end of the day, players sign a contract with MLS, not the club specifically, right? So I doubt. I mean, it could be true that Charlotte's trying to be shady. I'm not denying that it can't be, but I highly doubt it is, because it's not. The players don't sign the contract with Charlotte FC then RSL. It's a contract they sign with MLS.
yeah,
right.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure they would have to have been aware of the situation in order to even try to negotiate this.
Even before all this came out, right, and there was this stuff going on. It to me it just sounds like the club was trying to get rid of him anyways, right? I mean, I feel like he was up to be traded anyways. I mean, we've heard new rumors and everything. We've heard rumors about his off-field antics in the past too, and we've made jokes about him.
Sorry.
I got a dog in my throat. Sorry about that. And so yeah, it's it to me it's the club's in a hard position. And I did have a talk with a club source, and they basically just said that they are aware of the report regarding Andre, and at this point there's going to be no further comment. I mean, again, we don't know what's really going on in the investigation. It does say it's inactive, and doing a little digging in onto that, what does inactive actually mean? And it could be that they sent off for like DNA to clothing for some clothing and that sort of thing, right? Just to see if it matches his DNA. So, I mean, in regards to a police investigation, the way I understand it is it's not active. There's no warrants for his arrest or whatever, but they're just waiting for possibly for some what am I trying to say? Some stuff to come back that's being processed in the lab.
Right. And even if the police isn't doing it is not further looking through this investigation, that doesn't mean that the club isn't or MLS isn't either, right? These situations are very, very tricky, right? Because I mean, it involves, somebody accusing somebody of something, and then somebody who's in a very high profile position, right? So like some of this stuff, I see how sensitive it is on both ends, right? Tyler, what do you make of all of this?
It's a situation where there's not going to be a winner. So regardless of what happened, it's just going to be something that's going to drag out, and you're going to have people divided on whether you believe what Andre said or what the accuser said. And I think that the best case, wait and see what the police report says, because like you said, it's still open. The case is open. They're not currently looking at new information, but he has not been cleared by the police, according to Carol's article. So
the police report, and you can go see that actually on Carol's article. She links to it, right? I mean, there's one thing in this statement though, Jorge, that stands out to me, right?
In this one or the other one?
This one, right? He doesn't come out and deny that he didn't do it. He just basically says, I've been cleared, right? And there's no charges have been filed against me, right? But
yeah. I feel like that couldn't have been written by a lawyer.
But maybe his agent or something. But to me, if I would think if I was being accused of something this terrible, that the very first thing I would come out and deny that I did it, and then I would like have the backup to it being, the police investigation MLS. Now again, I'm still trying to hold judgment. I will just say though, from what we've seen of Andre, like unfortunately, like his antics off the pitch previously doesn't look good in the public eye, at least for reputation.
And also another thing you have to think about too, and we all know this who are involved in and around the club, Andre does not have the best reputation when it comes to women in
That's
Charlotte.
what my point is. Yeah.
Right? Right.
I mean, we used to make that joke all the time that there's just no clean sheets when Andre's around, right? Just because of the way he was acting off the field.
That's definitely your joke, but I thought it was funny. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't help his case either, right? Like at least I'm aware of different scenarios with different women, right? Just because, like I'm like within what's going on in the Charlotte scene as well, right? So that's definitely something he also has against him, right? So all in all, I mean, like this, the thing too with Charlotte is you can't really move on and say, hey, let's just talk about soccer because they're doing terrible in that aspect as well.
It doesn't look good for him though, right? Does it? I mean, again, not to throw down and say he's guilty by any means. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't look good.
Listen to the Tinder stories from Charlotte.
Interesting.
Tinder FC. Yo, people have had me weak all day.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, I just at this point, and whatever, call me PSL Lee or whatever you want to call me, man. I just honestly don't think that the club can actually come out and say anything about it, right? I mean, the club's in a tough situation. Like, there's been rumors, at least that I've heard, that they were trying to offload Andre before all this came out, like even before the incident happened. And now this happens, and then they had a deal. I don't know. Did Tom leak that too early? We don't know, right? About the deal going to Real Salt Lake. And then just for people to say that it's a shady move when, again, the MLS has said, hey, there's nothing here to investigate. And according to Andre, the police have cleared him. So,
yeah, and I mean, this also leaves questions open, right? For like players like I wouldn't put Adam in this case. I would
I'd say Adam's completely separate.
Yeah, I would put Nuno because when we asked him about both of them, he seemed really upset about it, right? And he said it was private matters, right? I mean, and then it makes no sense for you to
Said that?
No, Latanzio said that, right? It makes no sense for you to send a player who has a creative presence when we don't have that in this team, right? Where we're lacking that, you send him to Crown Legacy, right? So I think in the next couple of days, we'll definitely see more stuff coming out. This is, by all means, this is not the end of what is going on here.
Will you throw Michael's comment up there? Because I totally disagree against this about management. Like, how it's the second from the bottom. Like, I mean, how does this go back to management? That's like if I was to do something outside of my job, like, is my manager at fault for that? If I got a DUI, I decided I was going to go postal and shoot up the local bar or something. I mean, that's not management's fault, right?
Right.
I mean, these players have to take some accountability. They're in a public eye. They're professional sports players. They get paid well for what they enjoy to do. And I just think it's just, I just have a hard time putting this one on the club.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like more than half of the fan base wanted Charlotte to renew Andre last year too. Let's not forget that either, right? Like we saw he played well, and I thought he could still contribute to this team, right? And so it's not like they decided to stick with a player that was like bad, and then all these situations happen. Like you can't really control what people do at the end of the day,
Yeah, and just shout out to the Second Amendment.
Pretty many fucked up FC. Y'all are killing me. All right, hold on. I have to go open the door for Manny. But before I do that, I want to ask you guys this question right here, right?
Get that man a key.
If you were Charlotte FC, what would you do? And I want to hear from everybody in the comment section as well. Would you figure out a way to stick with Andre, or would you try to get rid of him from the get-go? And Lee, I'll let you go first.
No, I feel that at this point in time, I mean, I think the club and for the player, actually, it would be good to be let go or to move on, I guess I should say, right? If that's to Utah or Real Salt Lake or wherever, I think if regardless of what comes out of it, I'm assuming innocent until proven guilty. So if he is innocent, like he's saying, then personally, I think a move away from Charlotte, a fresh start, put this behind you, lesson learned, keep going. However, if he's guilty, then obviously he's going to be gone anyways.
Yeah. And I also think, I think somebody mentioned it earlier too, right? Like the fact that MLS did not accept the trade, even though Andre is saying that he's been cleared, tells you that there's more to this story than just what's been released, right? Because if he was completely clear and off the books, right, or whatever, right, like MLS would have let that trade go through, right? But there's something within that case or whatever is going on that Andre is being linked to that is not a good look, and that they didn't want that trade to go through.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we don't know who the victim is and the motives behind this. I'm assuming again, right, that what she's saying is true. Definitely don't want to diminish that by any means, but I mean, she could have easily came out and did this for posted it herself, got some clout, got some clicks, asked for some money, right? All that kind of stuff. But from what I'm seeing, seems to be a genuine report, and what I'm hearing is too, right? I mean, it's not for any of those things other than she feels like she was assaulted.
Yeah. And I'll definitely give you guys some insider information here shortly after I hear Tyler's thoughts.
Yeah, I think I would be shocked if he stays around. I mean, he hasn't really been in Latanzio's preferred players this season. When he's got a chance, he hasn't really looked that great either. So on the field issues, or on the field, he's not a player that you're like, we're going to be lost without him. Off the field, you don't want that kind of publicity coming toward your club, especially when your club's doing as poorly as Charlotte is this year. So I think distancing yourself from the player is going to be the move, honestly. So I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte makes that choice.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's gone. I would never see him in a Charlotte shirt again.
I think this is a good point too. Like what Jorge is saying, shout out to a great name as well. I mean, like Carol is not a person that's out there just putting stories to put out there, right? Like
she's legit.
She's legitimate. She did her due diligence. She did work behind it. And even the wording of that, she's not out here straight accusing Andre of something, right? She's saying that he's being linked to something. And I think it's very telling when Andre has to come out and say something about it as well, right? So, and here's a little bit of a timeline of what you guys are saying. I agree with you. I think Charlotte is going to find a way to get rid of Andre or move him on somehow, right? I know that him and the club are supposed to sit down this week and talk. What's going to happen in those conversations is very, very interesting, right? Because from what I know and from what sources have told me is that Andre really wanted that move to Salt Lake as well, right? To get this behind him and the club that's why when I tweeted a couple of days ago that this move was beneficial for both parties is why I said, but you know what? Like the last thing we want to do as fan media as well is put out information that's damaging to players that we're not 100% certain.
And victims.
And victims. You're right. Players and victims. That's damaging that we don't have 100% sure with assurance on, right? I mean, that's our responsibilities with bigger platforms. Will people like it? Will people not like it? I'm sorry, my guys. Like this is how we're gonna move, right?
Right. Yep. 100%. I mean, we could have easily leaked it, right, and got clicks and everything else.
Yeah, we could have just leaked what we thought we knew. We didn't have any certainty on certain things.
That's it. I mean, it was an ethical decision not to say anything about it and just leave it as it was and to wait until it flushed itself out. And here we are tonight talking about it.
Yeah. And then it says 4 listed as suspects. Okay. Is this why you ignored my question last week? Bro, you're not the only question I ignored. I ignored a lot of questions.
I asked him if he was going to show up for dinner and totally ignored me. So I sat there and ate myself.
Nice. Is there anything else that we need to touch on in terms of this topic that you guys feel is important, or anybody in the comment section? I just think also, here's where it gets bad for Charlotte, right? You know, your on the field product has not been great. And you add stuff like, you know, Adam Armour getting released. Now the Shinyashiki thing, Nuno getting sent to Crown Legacy FC, right? All of this just shows, or it just gives you that perception that like they have no control of what's going on, right? And I mean, fair or not, that's what it looks like, and that's what people are going to comment on, and that's what the fan base feels like. On top of people getting mad, people upset still about PSL and upset about ticket prices. That is just a reality that we live in within this club.
So, man, I mean, you know, again, I'm sure Tepa has a lawyer or two on retainer, right? And listening to their advice too about legally how can they get around this, right? So, you know,
A side note, keep commenting your FCs because these have me weak. Novella FC, Distraction FC, Disarray FC. Oh my goodness, this is so funny. Sorry, Lee, you were trying to make a point, and I'm over here.
I mean, I was just saying, like, you know, with the club not coming out and saying anything or doing anything while all this was going on in the background, right? I'm sure that the lawyers that Tepa has on retainer probably said, like, it's best to let this just kind of just sit in the background until it does leak, I guess. And, you know, again, their comment was, we are aware of the report regarding Andre and that there's no further comment at this time. So, you know, I don't expect much out of the club.
Yeah, exactly. And like from the club's perspective, what can you really do? You can't really go out and back the player, right? Because you don't know 100% what's going on. And you can't.
I mean,
really
it's a hard situation.
You can't really condemn the player either because you still don't know 100%. Let them do their investigation. Let them find out. You know what? Like, if Andre's innocent, then yes. Like, you know what? He should continue to have a career. He should continue to be a soccer player. But if he's not innocent,
Not going to be in Charlotte.
he should definitely be subjected to whatever comes with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Trent says it right there. You can't put yourself in those situations. You're held to a higher standard, right? I mean, you're a professional sports player. You're in the public eye. Like, make some sense. You know, use common sense. I mean, at the end of the day, no means no.
Yeah, for sure, right? So definitely a lot going on. And like I mentioned, this is not the last time we're definitely going to hear about this, right? I mean, you can't be a Queen City without some tea, is what people have been telling.
Yeah.
Right?
Hot mess. Sure.
All right. And with that, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to our next point of topic, which was this isn't great either, right? Like talking about Charlotte coming off of a 3-0 loss to DC United, right? And we have a special guest hopping on with us, the voice, the Spanish voice of Charlotte FC Radio, Señor Toño Ramos. How are you today?
How's it going, guys? Good to be with you again tonight. I remember last year you invited me during tough times, so I'll try to bring some clarity in these tough times. You know, but
perfect. Tough Times FC, Toño Ramos getting hit with Tough Times FC. So
You got to bring him back when we win a game or something. You can't keep doing this to him.
All right, that'd be probably at least 8 more weeks then.
let's just talk about football, shall we?
Nice. Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about some football then. DC United, another trip to DC, another 3-0 defeat for Charlotte FC, right? I mean, we started off, in my opinion, the game playing pretty well, right? There was a ball that Swiderski gave to Vargas that I feel like if his control was better, he would have done. I feel like that could have been a goal, right? But anyways, right? After that penalty, in my opinion, was super soft, right? It changed the whole game and it changed the momentum. And we start seeing some of the same problems that we see with Charlotte, right? And so I'll let you start it off, Tonio. Talk to us about this game, maybe some of the things that you saw.
Yeah, as you said, I think Charlotte played very well the first 30 minutes, and that penalty changed everything. DC played their game, you know, hoping for counterattacks, play long balls to Benteke, and we couldn't win the position battle back to create chances in second half. And sometimes I feel the opposition hurt us so much with just very, very few chances. And we can't let those mistakes in the box happen that often. In every game, there's something that hurt you. But just gotta be consistent. Focus defending on your box and play with your lines tight, and not only hope that Garo, Lorenzo, or Josviak individually make something happen. I want to see more connection, more links between them, and try different mechanisms to get to the last third. And of course, to win in the last 10 games is not ideal. You still have 24 more to go, but I think the margin of error is very thin, and it's weird to say this in May, but it's looking like that. But yeah, losing against a team that will be your direct competition for those last playoff spots in the East, so you don't want them to have that tiebreaker, right?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Also, like you mentioned it, we make very silly mistakes, right? Or throughout the whole season. Like, I mean, if you look at, I got to blame a fool. That clearance he had for Benteke's second goal was terrible.
So
like, he has to do better. Lee, talk to me about that game.
Yeah, I mean, you learn as a kid when you're in the box and the ball's in the air, do not head it back in towards the penalty area. Don't head it back to the 6-yard box. I mean, he set Benteke up for like it was, oh man, head it away, knock it out for a corner, do anything but put it back into the box. The whole team, it's like we seem to be okay though. I feel like until we get to that second, third, man, and we're slow build-ups for sure. And then it's like we forget what we're supposed to do. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we're all bitching about Jaws and saying like he needs to go. He's not worth the DP. He's not all that. I think, and now we're missing him.
Yep.
So it's like, I don't know, like there's so much going on with this club, and like the club just can't catch a break, man. And I hate it for everybody involved, but I don't know. Something happens once we cross that midfield line where everybody forgets how to play together.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Ashley talked about it too. Like just in the final third, we're not clinical, right? In his post-match presser, Tyler Lee touched on it a little bit. How much did we miss a guy like Josviak who's building momentum, right, in this season, right? And a guy like Toloma as well. Because if you look at it, I mean, that penalty came from a Jones mistake in the box. I mean, I know it's really tough to like give him a lot of blame, but at the end of the day, we were missing both Toloma and Josviak in that lineup.
Yeah, I think you really missed Jaws. I think Gaines played okay in the first half, to be honest.
He seems very one-dimensional to me.
He's not going to give you the same thing that you're going to get from Josviak. So missing Tuiloma, I think Derek Jones did a good job marking Benteke for most of the game. Like he was physical with him when he needed to be. The penalty, like you said, it was a little soft. It was a little clumsy by Jones as well, reaching that foot out, and it was definitely embellished a little bit. I would be mad if it was called again, if it wasn't called in our favor too, though. So I totally get why it was called, but yeah, missing those two players, it's really big. I just want a game where we get to have all our players play in their normal position and all of our players be healthy. To see, like, it's really hard for me to judge the team when we haven't had that for like a single game this year.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to that depth conversation that we have no depth.
Right. And then, Tonio, I wanted to touch on this with you specifically. It feels like when Swiderski's a little bit off or he's not playing to his best potential, like we do not see a good Charlotte FC.
Listen, I want Swiderski to say, hey, this is my team. Like, give me the ball, I got this. Just like the Mukhtars, like the Gazdags, like the Carles Hill, like the Almadas in MLS. I think he has the skill set just to be that creative number 10 and play just together with Enzo. And I hope Copetti can be more aggressive as well. I love that he's very unselfish and, he's always looking for that extra pass. But sometimes a striker, I want you to be selfish. I want you to be taking those shots. Actually, I talked to Enzo like a month ago, and I told him like, hey man, I like how unselfish you are, just making an extra pass. He said, I've been told that my entire life, so maybe he just needs to be more aggressive. But I kind of saw what Latancio was trying to do maybe since last game against Columbus, that they're not just pressing with Enzo high, they're just trying without the ball try to put Carroll alongside him. But honestly, missing Josviak, I think, was huge. Because if you ask me during this 10 games, I think he's my MVP of the season so far. Not because we're seeing goals and assists, because what he does without the ball, try to get the ball back in the last third. I think Josbeck's rhythm right now was impressive. Unfortunately, that injury came during the Open Cup game, but we can't just blame injuries and missing players. You just gotta compete. You just gotta play. But honestly, I'm a little bit concerned about the depth of this squad for the remainder of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, speaking of that Open Cup game, I feel like I kind of got to give Latanzio some blame, right? To me, the squad that he put out was way too much of a starting squad to be playing against a theoretically a third division team in Tormenta, right? And even when we were up 3-0, right, after the injuries of Toloma, after the injuries of Jasviak, he put in Swiderski. What if something would have happened to Swiderski as well? And I want to hear from everybody in the comments section as well. Do you agree? Was that squad too strong? Because ultimately that limited us going into DC. Lee, give us your thoughts.
I mean, ideally, right? I mean, I guess if I was in Latanzio's shoes and all I'm seeing on these socials is Latanzio out, this man doesn't blah, blah, blah. Like, he had to win that game. He had to win it regardless of who he started, who he did. Personally, I would have come out with a weaker squad, had those guys on the bench. If we were struggling 50 minutes in, make the subs, bring them in, get the goals, call it quits. But to me, he did it backwards, right? Because if we had gone 1-2-0 up with the weaker squad, then there would have been no reason to bring in the Jaws, the Carrolls, and those sort of players. So again, I just think Latanzio is probably getting, I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure, right? To me, it's just like, he wants to play a system. We've got good players. There's no doubt about that individually. They're just not good as a team or in the system that they're playing. Like, let's just go back to a 4-4-2 or something. Like, just make it simple, right? Stop trying. I don't mind the high press and all that, but it's just, we're trying too much. Let's get the basics right and then worry about all this fancy shit.
Right. Right. I mean, I agree with you that he needed to win the game, but when you're up 3-0 and you throw in Swiderski.
Yeah, I mean, that does. I mean, his subs always, I'm always questioning his subs.
Does that make, right? Tyler, anything you want to add to that?
There is something I want to add to what Tonio said earlier about UZX off the ball, what he's doing off the ball. I think last year Carroll got a lot of slack for what he did on the field, but people didn't notice what he did off the ball. This year, I don't think we've got a lot of that from Carroll, the off the ball work, especially in this DC game. Like, I think he's probably had two of his worst games as a Charlotte player this year. I'd say that's one of them. He had one earlier in the season. I don't remember which game it was now, but I think that's something we're not seeing from Carroll. I don't know if it's now something to do with him playing in that midfield role now, or if I'm not sure. But adding back to the Open Cup stuff, I get why he wanted to start Uzviak, because he's got so much momentum, scoring, assisting, playing well. So I get that. You don't go into any game really expecting for an injury to happen, let alone two. So hindsight's kind of 2020. I agree with what Lee said.
Someone was like, we shouldn't play on natural grass because we got two injuries on it. I was like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, they're too used to the turf. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. He probably should have went with a little bit less of a strong starting 11. But I totally get, especially Uzviak starting in that game.
Yeah, for sure. And then, Tonio, I want to ask you, I mean, Charlotte's got 2 wins in 10 games. What does Latanzio need to do to turn it around?
I just say just go back to your basics and what has actually worked for you. I love the Toronto game. I love the Columbus Crew game. Of course, we're coming to talk about, again, depth and players available. And sometimes, I feel that we miss like a strong voice in the field. Someone that yells and wakes up.
Ashley's back there to take care of it.
Yeah, those guys last year were Fuchs, Galina, Corujo, and Anton. We don't have them anymore. Well, we hope Fuchs helps with the coaching staff, but he's not playing on the pitch. So you need like a strong voice. I saw Ashley did that in the start of the season. I remember the New England game. it was the last 5 minutes of the game, and he was yelling at everybody on defense, like, guys, focus, just 5 more minutes and we're done. And unfortunately, we conceded at the end of that game. So, missing Ashley for 5 games was crucial, and not just what he brings with the ball, but his leadership.
You could definitely see an increase in quality in our midfield with him on versus not.
Yeah, you sometimes see like the pulse that he gives to this team and his skills with the ball. And I think this lack of energy or lack of commitment and accountability for me are non-negotiable things with any professional team.
Right.
I think it's more than that. It's tactics, it's roster fitting your scheme, it's a good game plan, it's mid-game adjustments. But at the end of the day, it's about the players performing and executed. And coaches, they just need to provide you with different tools or answers when you as a player can find them sometimes in the heat of the game, right?
Right. I agree. I feel like I have to criticize him a little bit, Westwood as well. I'm becoming criticized FC now. But one of the things I don't like that he's mentioned 2 or 3 times now is that this is still a new squad. I'm like, you can't be using that as an excuse anymore, right? I mean, we're 10 games in. We're in our second season into MLS as well, right? St. Louis could use that excuse, right? We can't, right? And so as somebody that's coming in with that leadership, it should be more about, okay, how do we get these players not to fold? Because what it feels like to me is anytime they face a little adversity, everybody crumbles, right? And so Lee, talk to me a little bit more about this.
Yeah, well, the one where they're saying it's a new team, or at least Ashley, right? I feel like that's kind of how you use 100%, right? I feel like it's just out of habit now, right? Yeah, man, it's just a new team, man. And to the point of, I mean, we touched on it last week or at least a couple of weeks ago, right? There hasn't been that one player on the field that can go around, get in the other players' faces, grab him by the scruff of the neck, like, get your finger out your ass, let's go, right? That's like you said, right? We got 5 minutes left, just dig in, right? We've missed that. I mean, the personalities of the players before Ashley came back are very timid sort of players. When you talk to them off the field, they're quiet and everything else. So, having Ashley back, and we saw it this weekend. I mean, the midfield just looked better. But with all that being said, I mean, we're still not getting the results. And where does that fall? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to get into the Latanzio in or out argument, but I mean, he's the one that picks the players for that day, and he's the one that picks the formation. I just simply think we just need to go back to a 4-4-2 or something really simple. I mean, I'm getting to the point where, hey, maybe Enzo needs to be benched for a game, right? Just to kind of get him going. I mean, I see the off the ball movement he's doing and everything else, but his first touch is questionable too.
I don't know. I don't know if benching Enzo is.
I mean, if you're going to play the formation, let's put Carroll up top one time. Let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, I think it's more of my criticism to Enzo is more of like he talks to everybody, and like some of that is good, but I'm like, bro, you do it too much. Like he was getting upset at some fans telling him, hey, let's go, Enzo, right? At the Open Cup game, he was like, hey, y'all need to be quiet. I was like, bro, just focus. I get that that's part of your game, and maybe you can't get that out, but you need to learn how to use that energy better, right? Don't talk to me more about like where, because like I said, to me, it feels like the mentality of this team sometimes isn't there, right?
Maybe it's just what I said, like the character and personalities that we're missing. It's hurting you because having Kalina back there with his character and Guzman Corujo, I mean, his physical presence is everything. And when we have Derrick Jones playing in the midfield, I think Brand looks better because he frees Brand a little more just to press and don't get those duties with the ball. I think like a double pivot with Derrick and Ashley, with Carroll playing as a sometimes false 9, because as Lee said, I see sometimes that we have a 4-4-2 scheme, but without the ball, right? It's just how you defend. With the ball is more like a 4-2-3-1. But yeah, 9 points in 10 games was something that I didn't see happening. I think nobody saw happening as for the start of the season. I think now it's time to play with a different urgency level, not play desperate or anxious, but just with a different edge because we need it. And I think that's the word. And as I said, just go back to your basics. And you're not the best because you beat Columbus, or you're not the worst because you lost against DC. Or we're coming out of not a bad stretch, but as I said, the first criteria in MLS is amount of wins.
Yeah.
So you need to stack them.
Listen, I've heard Latanjo talk about Ashley and about this not bad amount of stretch. The reality is the team is still 14th, and the reality is still that it's only 2 wins.
And standings are just up and down. One Monday you wake up being at the 9th place, and the other Monday you're probably at 13 or 14.
Well, we haven't woke up any week being in the top 9, 9 out of 14, and we haven't woke up one weekend where
Hey, wasn't we second before the season started though? Don't they go in alphabetical order?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, but no, I just want to say one other point too before I forget, because I'm bad about forgetting stuff. The times we play quick and we don't try to do all this fancy ass passing around, we seem to score goals. Like, when Lindsay was in, it was like 3 touches is all it took us to get down the field, and we scored, right? The possession when we played against Columbus, he had like 35% possession and we won. When we have the ball like 70% of the time, we're screwed. I use that.
I think it also plays into how teams want to play us as well. I feel like the best Charlotte FC that I've seen so far was kind of that first half against Columbus Crew at home, right?
Yeah, came out with some energy.
Yeah, you come out.
Second half in Toronto as well, I think.
Fair enough too. Because
you got to be consistent for. I'm not saying 90 minutes because nobody's consistent for 90 minutes. Just give us 60 good 5 minutes, and next game, on the same level.
I agree with you. I agree. There has to be a point where it feels like, most of the game we dominated and we deserve to win, right? But it really, to me, I haven't really felt that in any game. Even the Orlando game that we won as well. I feel like Orlando did enough in that second half to come back and get at least a point off of us, right? So I just think it's been a very tough season for Charlotte. And you know what? We've got a very, very tough stretch of games coming on, and it's going to start with this New York City FC game. Tyler, talk to us a little bit about this game. What are you seeing from New York, team that's 5th in our conference so far?
Yeah, New York lost a lot of players last year, and they also somehow are just as good as they were last season when they finished 3rd, I believe. Bringing James Sands back was really big for them. He had been at Rangers for a little while. So having him in midfield, along with Richie Ledesma for the creativity, they just look really good. Up front, they're stacked. I'm really worried about the wing play with our fullbacks, especially with awful pushing inside in the middle a little bit. With Talis Magno out there, we could be in for a long night. Looking at the goal so it's a little different. The goal they scored in the 95th minute, DC, we turned the ball over and Byrne was way pushed up, and they just torched us down that wing. I look to see that happening probably against New York too. So if they don't crack down there in the back, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. Antonio, talk to us a little bit more about that. They got guys like Sands, like Talis Mango, Pereira. These guys can really, really come in and hurt us.
Yeah, I think New York is a very competitive team. Only 1 game lost in their last 5, and that came last week against Toronto. But they're a completely different team on the road. Just 2 points total when playing away. Just 2 goals scored, 3 losses and 2 ties. But they have very dynamic players in Talis Magno, Santi Rodriguez, Will Sands, and Keaton Parks are a very young duo in the midfield. Is pretty solid, and some experienced center backs with Chanot and Thiago Martins. And this is Nick Cushing's first full year as a coach. He was interim last year with Roddy Taylor's departure to Belgium. They're not too flashy, but they know how to work out during the game. They're very sound schematically, I think. But again, on the road, they have struggled. Hope we take advantage from that. But got to focus on Charlotte FC and what the things that we're missing. I think, again, you need to find your DPs and you need to link with the guys up front, and it's not just individual efforts. I think I want to see, like, I know that Latancio likes to use like inverted fullbacks, not play that wide, and sometimes has helped you. But when you build from the back, and if you want to have like a clean path to pass the ball, sometimes you have to use your fullbacks in a more natural position, play more wide and have more space. And I want, as I said, I want Carol to say, "Hey, this is my team. You gotta, drop a little bit just in the midfield and help Ashley or Brand in the midfield just to build up the play and get some, depth with your fullbacks and overlaps and try to create 2-versus-1 situations, because I know that they like to clear the left side for Gerwin Vargas, because Gerwin 1-on-1 is pretty dynamic.
Right.
But sometimes now when you're missing Josviak on the right side, I think Mackenzie is better coming off the bench. But if you want him as a starter, and right now, I don't know if Justin Murden is going to start because he has very few practices with the team. And, again, the lack of depth, because if I'm Latancio and I'm seeing the bench and I see, youngsters and I see guys with just maybe two games of experience with Cambridge and Hamadi Diop and Patrick Aguiman and Chris Heger, it's tough to find solutions sometimes with this, very, very thin depth on your bench. But yeah, to me, it's just go back to the basics, put your players in the right positions, just link with the guys on top. I want Carol to play closer to Enzo, closer to the box, and I think they're crossing too much sometimes, and to me that feels like there's sometimes lack of creativity. But as I said, those examples, those two games, Columbus and Toronto, you need to pick a page of those games and just go to your basics.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Lee's been touching on going back to the basics.
Like 5 times.
He looks so angry too.
I'm just frustrated like most of the fans are, right? I mean, I would love to sit in with Latanzio and the team when they're looking at tape and just to try to see or hear what the hell do they think they need to change or do better, right? Because we could sit here and be basement dweller reporters all day long, right? And
basement bloggers.
Yeah, that was basement bloggers or whatever they were calling us on the socials, right? But some of this stuff, it's elementary shit, and I just don't get it sometimes. Like it's just that DC game we did a watch along, and it was so hard to watch. Like about the 60th minute, I was done. Like there was just no passion, there was nothing, man. And I don't know. And again, the depth. I mean, who's at fault there? Does that go back to Zorn? Like, who's getting these players? Scouting department? I mean, I think we got a decent scouting department overall, but who's making those choices for the depth, right? Because you can get the DPs all day long and drop the money. Tepper's sort of done that, but then the talent just diminishes once we look at the bench. Like Latanzio's looking around going, who the hell am I going to put on?
Yeah, for sure. But also, there's guys that maybe aren't in cases like Shinyashiki, kind of like Melo, where okay, where is he gone, right? Like you talk about a lack of depth in this squad right now. You're going to need a guy like him up front, right? If Gaines isn't your solution at right wing, maybe throw Melo in there, right?
I mean, I will say Melo did pretty good the 2 times he's come on. I thought he did pretty well. What's that?
No, that's what I said. Exactly, right?
Yeah, but that's one player, one position, right? I mean, the rest of the bench, I mean, I like Chris Hagart. I think he's a tidy player. I just think he needs a little, how do you say it, right? I don't want to say maturity, but I mean, he just needs
reps and playing time.
Yeah, reps and playing time. Exactly. So it's just, I don't know. I think when we start talking about depth, and we can all agree that we don't have enough depth. I mean, because hell, Latanzio even says it in his press conference, like we're missing 3 players, right? There should be somebody ready to step up, jump in that position and go, right? And we just don't have that. So, I mean, that's not Latanzio's fault.
Yeah, I semi agree with that, right?
Yeah, I want to say something about the Zoran out. Play devil's advocate for a minute.
Go ahead, Tyler. Tell us
So,
why you love Zoran.
I love Zoran. But you got to think so everybody's giving Crown Legacy all these props right now. Zoran is also over that. Am I correct on that?
I think you're right. I mean, it's the same scout department and everything else.
No,
I mean, so
the president there is Darius Barnes.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh no, man, we're gonna out.
I almost got baited just now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're still seeing a lot of the fallout from the first season with how much roster, like so many players that left last season and in the off season, trying to bring new players in and not getting it right. Like that's one big issue with our depth is still just the fallout of how bad last season's turnover was. I think that's still an issue this season. Tyler's misinformed. Why am I misinformed?
Matthews. I think it goes down, in my opinion, to very like Lee says he wants to play more basic. I think that too, and I think it goes style of play versus personnel that you have. You don't have the players to play how you want to play, right? And you see it because when we do hold the ball right, we don't do anything in the final third, right? We don't have a MLS Kevin De Bruyne. We don't have a guy like that in this squad. That's the reality, right? But moving on from that, I want to hear from all three of you. What would you like to see from Charlotte FC this weekend? Tonio, I'll start with you. And I want to hear from everybody in the comment section.
Yeah, just a different edge and a sense of urgency. As I said, not play anxious, don't play desperate. Just a different edge to the game and protect your house. Because as I said, it's just a very thin margin of error right now, and it's crazy to say that in May because there's 24 games on season. But again, if you want to compete, you got to protect your house. But if you want to be a playoff contender team, you got to take points in the road games. You got to win away. But everything starts, protecting your house. We don't know exactly what to expect with the starting 11 because of player availability. We need to see until maybe Friday. We can't say something today because we don't know exactly the injury report. But it's just a different personality, a different character. And as I said, I want somebody to step up because there's different type of leadership, right? Because Karol, Swiderski, and Copetti, I think their leadership needs to come from their talent. And as I said, just give me the ball. I got this.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time because that's money right there about Karol and Copetti.
Yeah, because they have a different type of leadership with their talent and with the skills that they have. And they can show everybody, hey, this is our squad. We're the DPs. But at the same time, you need, as I said, the heavy voices right there. Like somebody that yells you and wakes you up during the game. Because we can repeat all these players that we're missing, but somebody has to step up during these times. They're still professional players, as I said. It's non-negotiable the lack of energy or commitment or passion. I don't think it's the case, but you need to show it every single time, man. I just want to see a different edge. I want to see different mechanisms just to create 2v1 circumstances in the last third. And I saw during the Open Cup, because when Shinyashiki was playing at center back, sometimes he pushed a little bit up the field. He was playing more of a midfielder, and that make Bronico load the box. So I don't know if that was something that Latanzio wanted to try during MLS, because sometimes you can use Open Cup to experiment a little bit. But yeah, you just gotta put your creative players together and just put the players on their positions to be successful. Again, I miss Derrick Jones' physical presence in the midfield.
Yes.
But with Dulomas injured, you need to shake it a little bit the lineup. But that's
you have a guy in the bench of like Jan Subocinski who's on $300,000 a year in MLS, and you're not playing him, right? Too. So I mean, there's a lot I get it too. Like at the end of the day, it comes down to the tactical decision of the coach. But what you're doing is not working, in my opinion, as of right now, right? But
And players performing as well. It's on every level. It's front office, it's coaching, it's players. We can't just point just one person to make these things different, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Great points. Tyler, what do you want to see from Charlotte this weekend?
The thing I've been most disappointed about it's just like the resilience of the team. Like Antonio kind of hit on this a little bit, but there's only one game that really comes to my mind immediately where the team looked like they were going to get destroyed, and they came back and played their hearts out, got a draw. You just don't see that with this team. I don't know. It's not like the thing that gets me is it's not like we're doing this against LAFC, like the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Going down to LAFC, they're clearly probably better than us.
Yeah, if we get
and you're not fighting back, but we're playing DC, and
Yeah.
you're not fighting back against DC. Like it doesn't look like there's even a chance that they're going to come back into this game.
RSL, DC United, these aren't teams that are going to be competing for MLS Cups. And that's what bothers me the most. I can accept LAFC. I can accept a Seattle cooking us, right? Right. But what I cannot accept is the team that Tonio mentioned that we're going to be in a direct battle with, cooking us the way that they're cooking us. Lee, what do you want to see from this team this weekend?
I mean, we've all said it, urgency. I think when we come out from the beginning and we're playing faster, we typically win. Again, I personally, I think I don't have to worry about not drinking all the beer I buy in the stadium. I feel like every drop I'm going to drink, unless I drop it or I get bumped, because there definitely I don't think it's going to be any beer throwing from the supporters section.
Why don't you hold the cup up if it's empty when we score and try to get all the beer back in?
Oh, that's a good idea. Like get 1.5 for the price of one, and then but again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we talk about it every week. The club doesn't have any urgency. We don't have that player that's going to come in and just say, "Damn it, give me the ball. Let me pump you up to make this happen." Nobody. I mean, Ashley's finally back, so hopefully he's at least yelling and screaming at players. But then I look at Capetti, the way he complains about, and again, that's his style of play. But to me, it's like I could see Westwood getting in there yelling at him, and then him kind of throwing a temper tantrum, like, "Who the hell are you?" So it's like, I don't know. This team we just haven't clicked. We haven't gelled. But, we start talking about preseason. We had this whole plan, and sorry, I'm talking about the walks part, but then we came in the very first game of the season and we basically ripped up everything we were doing in preseason. I just don't know what's going on with the tactics. I want to beat Batanzio or whoever. Invite me in there. I won't say a word. Just let me listen to y'all talk while you're watching tape.
Dang, you heard it. If you watch this, Lee wants to go to the tape watch.
Yeah, DM me a little bit.
Right.
Come on
This
over.
is what I want to see from this team. I want to see some chemistry, more chemistry between Swiderski and Copetti. Tonio touched on it, right? I think these guys aren't going to be the vocal guys on the field that are going to be yelling at players. They need to demonstrate their leadership through their style of play. You especially see that when Swiderski scores, right? Like he's like vamos, like yelling, going to break the throne, right? Like that hypes up the players in a way where him yelling at them isn't going to do it because he's not the guy. He's not meant for that. He's not built like that, right? And we need to see some leadership from other guys like Ashley, right?
I mean, to be fair to Ashley, he was injured and he's just coming back.
Right. I get that, but he's coming in with the experience, right? And then I want to see some intensity from this squad from the get-go. Show us that you're coming out here, because there were games last year where we lost or we didn't get the win, but I was still like, like the team put up a fight, and it just doesn't feel like that this year. And I want to see the team put up a fight.
I can guarantee you.
It was in the Toronto game. To be fair to them, we saw it in the second half.
I can guarantee you within 5 minutes of how this game starts on Saturday, however it starts, either we're going to come out flat and slow or we're going to be running around and actually have some energy. If we come out with some energy, I'm going to say we're going to win the game. If we come out flat and slow, we're going to get spanked.
For sure. All right, we'll answer some quick questions that we've got through the live. Do you think there's some prioritizing in legacy? Hell no. Do you really think Latanzio wants to be in the position that he's in and say, yeah, sure, here, take these players and take
I mean,
them
maybe
away?
they're talking about upper, Zorn and that sort of.
No, I think okay. Well, that question I guess can be interpreted in different ways. If it's like that, I don't think so either. What happened to Vinny Mello? Thought he had 2 good cameos. From what I've heard, there's been some tension between him and Latanzio, but hopefully he's back soon. Where the hell is Brian? Brian, unfortunately, we have a story coming out about him tomorrow, and it'll be.
He wrote it too, right? He
No,
wrote his own story.
It'll be on the ledgers. No, I'm just kidding. He just couldn't make it tonight. Relax, guys. So we'll be good. Are we expecting any moves in the summer for upcoming players? Yes.
Of course. How could we not? Give me a left back.
We have to, right? If they make no changes, then
give us something, man.
Yeah.
Almighty, please, Zorn. Give us something, Zorn.
For sure. I guess, and then we'll end it with some score predictions, right? I'll start off with you, Tonio. Talk to us. What are we expecting this week? 6-0 Charlotte.
Yeah, of course, let's do it. But I don't want to say I'll take a tie. I don't want to be that kind of guy because we need a win. And I think with the 20, 30 minutes that we've seen sometimes from the start of the games and just the personality of the team when they defend with the ball, that's a concept that I really like. Just I never felt during probably any game this season, maybe the RSL game, but the other games, I didn't feel like we were just being pinned down on our own box. It's not being like that. The way that we've lost or tied the games has been because of our mistakes. So, but I hope we win. But New York City is not a bad squad. They're very, very competitive. They're very organized. So I'll see a tie, but let's go for a win, of course.
Nice. Awesome. Tyler?
I think I'm going to go with the 1-0 win. I don't think New York hasn't won on the road yet, right?
No.
They've got a couple draws, maybe.
Yeah, we're good at breaking streaks.
Yeah,
we're good at breaking streaks.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
points
we
and 2
are.
goals on the road.
Yeah, ask Real Salt Lake how good we are at breaking streaks.
That is a very fair
I'm
point.
going with the 1-0. I'm confident. Usually when things start getting really bad, they always pull out a result. I feel like I've noticed that trend over the last year and a half. So I feel like we're approaching that point where they're going to get a win against a good opponent. I mean, it kind of already happened with Columbus, though. Everything was kind of chilled out for a week.
Sometimes that we play big against better teams, and sometimes you underperform against your guys at your level, teams maybe below your level. So you just gotta play at the same level and intensity, regardless of who you're facing.
Well, I mean, if you look at the league, everybody's above our level.
We're talking about on paper.
Standing.
More important.
I'm just saying performance, right? Or squad level. Yeah.
Lee, what are you expecting this weekend, my man?
And look, so there's an Instagram that we do, right, where we do these predictions every week, and I haven't got one right. If I say we're gonna win, we lose. If I say we're gonna lose, we win. Like if I say we draw, man, the team doesn't even show up, the game gets canceled. It's ridiculous, right? But so I'm going to make 2 predictions here. I'm going to say if we come out in the first 5 to 10 minutes with some intensity, we're going to win. It'll be like 2-1. If we come out flat, we're going to get spanked like 3-0.
Okay. So depending on how the team plays,
text me 5 minutes in, and I'll do it. You can screenshot it and then we'll tweet it.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Like by the 90th minute, I'll know.
No. 5. Give me till 10th minute, first half, and I'll tell you if we're going to win or not.
Nice. Well, unfortunately, I am not confident at all going into this game. I feel like there's also like too much extra stuff going on in and around the club too. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 defeat to New York. Hopefully I'm wrong, right? Because we never want to see our team lose. But at the end of the day, we've got 2 wins in 10 games. Nothing about this team so far has shown me that like they're on the right track. But hopefully, they prove us wrong this weekend, right? I'm more than happy to come on next week and say, yo, they proved us wrong. They played well. The intensity was there. Caro scored. Enzo scored. X, Y, and Z, right? But We
Oh,
need to
make us look dumb. Make us look dumb as hell on this show. Just
For
really
real.
embarrass us. And to Tristan's point,
We're tired of doing it ourselves. You guys do it.
yeah, like Tristan said, we ain't as bad as SKC. That's just because we're not playing them. Anyways,
All right.
I'm done.
Yeah. Dang, Caitlin, you calling me out. I did say we were going to win 15. I was out of the next 5 games, I did say 15 points. But that was more of a joke. All right, Lee, where can we find you at?
At COTFC Fan TV on all the socials. Our live show will be tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come join us. We'll continue the conversation around Andre and everything the club's been doing, and then obviously the game coming up, and then fan interviews after the game at outside the supporters section. Come talk to us, say what you want. There's no editing. It's as raw as it gets. So please come out and just tell us what you think's going on.
Nice. Double T, where can we find you at, bro?
You can find me at TopBin90. Check out my Brandon Cambridge profile. Also have one coming up with David Pareba pretty soon on Thursday.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
So
good one too.
be on the lookout for those. Otherwise, I'll be here in my basement, and just hit me up on Twitter.
Perfect.
In the basement.
Can you hear your dog bark on Twitter too? Or no?
I can post it. Request. Just DM me. I'll send it to you.
Nice. And Mr. Toño, where can we find you at?
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter, like at Ramos019. We've been doing a little bit stuff, of course, for Panthers as well. You can go to Los Panthers social media accounts, and we were doing. Oh, there's a pretty beagle right there.
Pretty legal.
Yeah, I missed
Pretty
my
loud.
Just hold him up, man, and then like Tyler can be out.
He's the star of the show.
Yo, you guys have been killing me with these FCs.
I'm a huge Beagle fan, so that's a pretty one.
Thank you.
But yeah, at Ramos019, you can find me there. We can talk about soccer, Mexican food, NFL, NBA, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Toño does a great job not only covering Charlotte FC, but you're very well versed in American football too. I mean, I just say that because I don't know anything. Someone today was like, DM me, and they're like, "Do you think Young has to do anything with this?" And I was like, "Who the hell is Young?" I was like, "Ashley Young." But with that said, you can find us at TopBin90 on all those socials, Real TopBin90 on TikTok. Guys, thanks so much for jumping on tonight. What a show we had. It's always higher engagement too, and there's always more people when there's a little drama going on in the club. So appreciate everybody that jumped on. You guys have a good night and stay blessed. Good.